Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Chris.
I'm super excited to interview you today. I know that you have an amazing story to tell, and I am super excited to hear you share it in this platform. So we're going to just jump right in because why not? I'm going to start with my first question is just in a few sentences, I would like you to tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay. So my name is Melissa Hoffman, and I live up in the mountains by all the ski areas. And I am running and just opening a coaching and public speaking business that empowers women. So I'm technically a post-traumatic growth coach. I help you move after you've experienced some kind of trauma. I help you move past that to rebuild your life even better than it was before. So that's my goal and my mission to do that. And yeah, so that's
Awesome.
what I'm up to.
So we've talked before, but I would like you to share with the audience what your intention is with sharing your story today.
Well, so my intention really in sharing my story is to inspire others, particularly women who've experienced any kind of sexual violence in their life. And I'll get more into my story in a little bit, but it's really to inspire you that like there's light at the end of the tunnel, and that there's people out here that are standing with you, and you can do this. You can get through everything.
Cool. So I'd like you to share your story, but I want you to start with a little bit of context or backstory. Tell us what was going on before all this
Okay.
story that you're here to tell us.
Sure. So we have to go all the way back to 2016 is when this happened. I'm living up in the mountains, I was at the time, I had just left a job selling timeshare up here in Breckenridge. My background was very strong in sales, and I was starting a e-commerce business at that time. And I don't know, I had just started dating somebody. I had just, life was pretty just okay. It wasn't like fantastic out of this world, but I was really excited about starting another business and doing all of that. So kind of where
Great.
we come.
Okay. I always like to hear what was going on before because there's always different stories that bring us to where we are now. So
Yeah.
tell me what you want to share about today.
Okay. So it was St. Patrick's Day, so March 17th, 2016. I had gone out. I was celebrating. I had just completed a 10-week kickboxing boot camp, and I had won second place. And we had like a celebration evening that we went out to go and celebrate our success over the 10 weeks, all the hard work that we had done. I had lost weight, had quit smoking, was feeling on top of the world. Before that had not, obviously had not been drinking during this whole time, not a big drinker anyways, but decided to have the guy I was dating at the time be my designated driver, because I thought, probably have a couple glasses of wine, and it was there was a snowstorm that day. And completed the party, and then we proceeded to go to another bar because it was St. Patrick's Day and wanted to continue, celebrating everything. And given my low tolerance for alcohol and all of that, I really became blacked out. I don't remember a whole lot, and the next thing I know, I wake up and just have a flash of being gang raped by, I thought at the time 3, it was actually 4 men. And then I became unconscious again, and the next thing I remember is waking up in a strange place, covered in bruises, not knowing what happened, where I was, all of that. So that's kind of what happened in as minimal graphic detail as I can provide on that.
Right. And I know a part of your story is really about what happens next.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that adventure.
Yeah, so quite the adventure. So So I get up, I don't know what's going on. I finally, figure I need to get out of here, get back home, and called a friend, took some pictures of some of the bruising on my body. My friend encouraged me to go to the hospital, said, I think that you've been raped. And it was still like it wasn't really registering in my mind yet. But anyways, went to the hospital. It took them 6 hours to document everything there. And, one of the questions that they ask you is, do you want to report this? And I remember, I remember what it was like being there at the hospital and being like, all the like range of emotions that were going through me. Like I was ashamed, I was scared, I was angry, and the one thing that kind of came to me when I was sitting there is like, this is not okay. I'm not going to let this like continue in this small community that I love. Like I've lived up here for almost 15 years now. And, this is my home, and that this could happen up here really was a wake-up call for me. And I decided, yes, I absolutely want to report. And part of it also, what gave me the strength to do that as well, is when I kind of latched onto the idea that I can't let this happen to anybody else.
Yeah.
Like if this happened to me, like who, like this, I'm like a very unlikely person that this would have happened to. Like this could happen to somebody else. And I just decided like, it's not about me. It's about like my community and the world. And that gave me the strength to report and go forward.
And I know that you are a self-proclaimed personal development junkie. How did that come into play in your decision?
Yeah, I think that I'm so grateful that I had done a lot of work on myself prior to this. Like I had done Tony Robbins stuff, T. Harv Eker stuff. I had really, and like my bookshelf, you can see that's only like a portion of my bookshelf is like filled with personal development and business books and all that, and just something that I've always been really interested in, like how can I become a better person? How can I serve the world? And so having that background, I felt like I was able to be strong because I had like I had a lot of training before that. And I was like, I knew one of the things was like, no matter what, like, because I think around this issue, like people are like, do I report? Do I not? Like, what did I do wrong? What are people going to think of me? All of that. I just had this sense of like, I don't really care what other people think of me. This is not okay. I am going to do this anyways, regardless of what the world thinks, because it's the right thing to do. Because I had that background, like they can't take away who I am and
Right.
what
And
my truth is.
right. And you knowing the right thing to do, it made it super easy going forward, right?
No, absolutely not. So we proceed onward in this, and and I really have no idea like how this works. I've never been put in a situation like this. I've never had to deal with police at this level. I've never had to deal with the justice system at this level. I didn't know, I didn't know what I didn't know. So what happened immediately after was, I reported, I went down to the police station. We, got as much as I could remember. They started investigating, but I was not informed of anything that was going on in the investigation. So I was a little lost. I was very traumatized. I was afraid to like go out in the community again because I didn't know who these people were. I didn't know if they knew who I was. I didn't know what was going on. And that was part of the police investigation, was to not inform me what was going on so they can keep my testimony pure for court should it get to that point. So that summer, it was really until, so that was March of 2016, and we did not get arrests until the end of April of 2017. So over a year, I was sort of living in limbo, and but still standing that like something was going to happen or they were going to figure something out. I had no idea, but I was that year was like very much a year of trauma for me,
Yeah.
not
I
knowing
was
what was
going to
going on.
ask, were you going through any processes at that time to heal, or because of limbo, did you stay in that crisis mode?
I think I was sort of on a roller coaster throughout it, like it was up and down. One thing that was really instrumental to me and my growth in that year is I did the Landmark Forum. Don't know if the audience has heard of that or not, but the Landmark Forum, and I really got some things very clear for myself and who I was, what I was standing for, you know, all of that. And I think there was a bit of, because I didn't know if anything was going to happen, there was a bit of like denial around it, so, and there were things that would trigger me, like I got stuck on the side of the road and I was like freaked out to have a tow truck driver pick me up and all that stuff. So, lots of different events that happened in that year that were, scary for me. But I remained determined throughout to heal and reach out for the resources that I needed to. So, I also credit myself as being a very resourceful person. So I looked for all the different organizations that were out there that could provide any kind of assistance or help, or, can I get therapy? Can I get all of that? So I did get therapy, and I did go through some courses at Landmark Education.
Okay. And so after that arrest, how did that change things, or did it?
Oh, yeah. So the reason why we actually got the arrest, that I had no idea what they had discovered, is that they had discovered videos on one of their phones of the actual rape. Wow. And so from those videos, they were able to ID all of the perpetrators. Like originally I had thought it was 3, and it turned out that it was actually 4 from the video. I just, it's like really at that point, now it got real. Now it was like I was starting to learn what actually happened, because I really didn't know a lot of how things happened because I was blacked out. Yeah. I didn't, I just remembered what I could remember. So all of that detail starts coming out, and, because it's for men, or whatever choice name you would like to call them. The biggest, now we start the court process, right? And that's traumatizing in itself. So now I'm finding out all the details. Now I'm actually learning who these guys are, what's going on. One of the first things that happened, we were trying to get them all tried in one trial, like combine all their trials into one. But I learned that the accused have a lot of protection under the Constitution, and they were able to waive their right to speedy trial. There was a lot of different things, a lot of different legal things that happened, where all the trials got split out. So now, not only do I have to face court one time, I have to face court 4 times. So.
And I remember you sharing with me at some point that while all this was going on, you still had to deal with living, working, functioning as an adult, or lack thereof at times, or while you're processing this trauma, dealing with peers. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so what was interesting at the time of the arrest, for the first year after it happened, I didn't know what was going on. I wasn't really working all that much, honestly. I was putting things on credit cards. It wasn't amazing. I was getting assistance from different organizations, but then I finally got to a place where I was like, okay, I'm going to, find a good job up here. I started working for the local newspaper, doing sales for them, ad sales. And that was in January of 2017 that I started with them. And then I find out in April of 2017 that the arrests are happening. I had disclosed everything to my employer, like what was going on and all of that. But being that it is the newspaper, they were going to report on it because it was a big deal in this community. Like, I talk to people even these days and they're like, obviously my name wasn't published or anything, but people that I now disclose to, they're like, oh my God, you're so amazing. Like, I can't believe that you went through all of that. So the first trial that we had was in October of 2017. So now we're over a year and a half after the actual event. I'm kind of like holding my breath. What's going to happen? We have the trial for the first man. I find out while I'm on the stand at the trial that my coworkers are his relatives. That was not amazing. So went through the trial. The reporting was not, I found it to be almost very salacious, very sensational reporting, and very much like kind of victim blaming, and the wording that they used, it wasn't very sensitive to victims, which was surprising because I was friends with the man who was reporting it. But after experiencing that and finding out that coworkers are relatives of his, I had to leave my job. So the conclusion of that trial is that we did get a conviction, and he was sentenced to 16 years in prison, where he is now sitting and working on appeals, which is just how it works.
Yeah.
So he will work on his appeal, and we will see what happens in the future.
Now, I remember you telling me something about most criminals justice not being found for victims. Is that true?
Yeah, the statistic I think that I've seen, and I could be a little bit off, but it's really close and it's really quite eye-opening, is that only 3% of rapists actually receive any kind of conviction and spend any time behind bars. 3%.
So we heard that one got convicted. How about the other 3?
So we were supposed to go back to trial like in January, the following, 2018, through the justice system and more, just legal things that aren't set up to assist victims. Everything got delayed. We had another trial in July for the second person, and that trial was much different. He had 20 counts against him. He got exonerated on 10 counts, and then it was a hung jury on the last 10 counts. So we're sitting there so it's essentially like nothing happened, right? So now it's like we retry this again, right? So then that gets pushed off, to set trial takes a long time. But then the last 2 guys started offering plea deals, started coming to the table and saying, like, we want to plea this out. We don't want to go to trial. And so part of one of their deals that they had to testify against this other guy. So I did receive, 2 of them, we did plea deals for them. They did not get nearly as much time. That's part of what the plea deal works, how that works. And then the last guy, who was the one who had the hung jury trial, he, I don't know how important it is, but he got caught using a Wizinator to pass his UA test that he was required to take under bond, under his bond conditions. And he tried to bribe the, probation officer. So that's, did you know that bribing a probation officer is actually a worse felony than raping somebody?
Wow.
Who knew?
Now we know.
Yeah, so, and he had a lot of prior, alcohol charges and different things. So this guy was not somebody that was upstanding in our community. What ended up happening with him is all of his previous charges for like DUI, impersonating people, bribing an officer, all of this stuff got combined into one, and we came to a plea deal with him, and he was sentenced to 5 years in prison.
Okay.
So when that happened, and so that was the last one that we finally wrapped up, and that was in March of this year. So it took 3 years from the event until the final sentence to finally get justice on all of them.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. So what was your biggest takeaway from this experience? What do you wish everybody knew, or every woman knew, now that you've been through this and now that you're moving forward to empower women?
Right. I mean, there's so many like little things that I got along the way. From the very first, I think it was just like my determination to heal was instrumental in my being able to stay strong and do this. So like be determined, and it's not going to be easy. The second one is like, make sure that you have like a community and people around you that are supporting you. It makes a huge difference. There's no way I could have done this if I was just doing it alone and I didn't have people, in my corner standing with me, period. And that's part of why I'm starting this business, is that I feel like there's not always people don't always have the access to the support network that I had. And so can I be a part of people's support network in that healing process? So like healing is possible. You have to stay determined. You have to know that like there's not there will be ups and downs, and the downs don't last forever. Like you will be able to get through it, but don't do it alone, I think. And there's a lot of other little things along the way that I got. Like, I think a big thing that I remember is being up on the stand, which is hugely traumatizing for anybody. I mean, it's just nerve-wracking. It doesn't matter if like who you are, if you ever have to be on the stand in court, it's just nerve-wracking. And I remember some of the coaching that I had received through Landmark and the team that I had there was being able to, quote, be with any communication. So I really got that like the defense attorney is doing their job. They're going to say all of these things to try to get me to crack under pressure. They're gonna, they're just gonna do what they're gonna do. But literally the only thing that is happening is that like noises are coming out of their mouth. Nothing else is actually happening. Like I am not in any physical danger. Like there's people standing everywhere. There's the jury, there's the different attorneys, there's the gallery, the judge, all of that. Like that's what's going on. That's the situation that I'm in. And no matter what they said, they can't take away my truth. Like they will do their best to try to twist my words and do all of that. But when I was standing in my truth, and just knowing that nothing else, like that I wasn't in truly any danger, and not really caring like what people thought about me, like I was able to withstand that, again, with support and just knowing that.
One of the things that I noticed in you sharing that is that when you were sharing about that first year and just being scared of everything, and I know one of the signs of PTSD is this hypersensitivity. And then to see that contrasted with you being on the stand and actually recognizing there was nothing to be afraid of, that it was just noises coming out of their mouth. Mm-hmm. I think that's a huge contrast to show us the healing work that you've done to get from that point A to point whatever it is right now, because it will continue to be a journey for you.
Yeah.
Especially as these paroles come up. That's going to be a whole nother thing to.
Yeah. And I I have civil suits out and all of that. So
Yeah.
it's not like, it's something that will be with me the rest of my life. And it's not something that controls the rest of my life, right? It informs my message. It informs my, motivation and inspiration to other people. But it doesn't like run me. Like I don't walk around like terrified of things, but I've worked on myself to get to this point. It wasn't like it just, time heals all wounds. I don't think that that's the case. Like working hard on yourself and staying determined, that's what heals all wounds.
And is that what you're
And
going
as
to
time
be
passes, it gets less,
charged?
less charged, but
Yeah. And is that what you're going to be working with women on, or is it more expansive than that?
well, I've been thinking about, since I'm just at the beginning of this new business. So right now I'm really working on coaching and coming up with some message for some public speaking, because I do want to get some of the story out and message out. Right now I'm focused on women that might have experienced something similar, that have done some of the growth and healing work and are at a place where like they're good, but they want to be great. They're,
Yeah.
they're surviving, but they want to be thriving. So that's kind of the niche there. Now, as I progress, I have been, talking to the different like local area, like in the court system. How can I become an advocate for women in that situation? Because I went through the court process multiple times. I know what to expect. I know what the lived experience is of it, versus having a social worker tell you like, oh, this is what a restraining order means. Well, what does that look like in your day-to-day life? It's a little bit different. What is it going to look like when you get up on the stand? What to expect, all of that. I would like to be able to provide that. I was thinking about branching off to a nonprofit arm for some of that work.
Very good.
Because I know at least in my experience, the financial impact was huge, and being able to pay for services wasn't, I just wasn't able to do that, but I did,
Yeah.
I was able to reach out and get support in other ways.
Well, very good, Melissa. Thank you so much for being brave and vulnerable and sharing your story with us. I think it's powerful, and I hope that people really hear the message that you have. And I know that all of us, unfortunately, know someone who's been through a traumatic event that maybe they'll think about working with you or finding other resources in their own community, whatever they can do to really foster their healing. I want to end on a kind of fun, silly note, and I'd like to know your favorite food.
Let's see, my favorite food. I like Italian food. Probably.
Italian. What's your favorite Italian food?
So I have a recipe that I have perfected since college. I'd call it my spicy spaghetti recipe. So it's a very spicy, hot Italian sausage, all of that, peppers and all that good stuff.
Very good. Yummy. I'll have to come over and try it sometime.
Yes, if you like spicy food, it's very spicy.
I love spicy food.
Yeah.
Well, Melissa, thank you again. I'm going to put all your contact information and the links with the video so that if anyone wants to contact you, they can. Thank you again so much for sharing your story.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Have a great day.